We're in Jupiter in Florida. Now this is home to some of the world's best golfers. Rory McIlroy lives just back there. Tiger Woods just down in front of me now, but I'm not here to see them. I'm here to hunt down the great white shark. I'm here to meet Greg Norman.
The story goes that your mother was going off to play in a tournament and she asked you to caddy, or you wanted to caddy, and you went out and you caddied for her, and then you played a few holes after she had finished. Is that what happened? Is that how you discovered golf?
That's exactly how it happened. My father moved from Townsville, which is up in far north Queensland, on the Great Barrier Reef, and we moved south to Brisbane, which is about 1,000 miles, roughly, give or take. And I'd left all my friends. I'd left the beach life, the surf life, the diving life, the sporting life, and my mum was going out to play one day, and I was bored at home. And
how old were you?
I was just before my 16th birthday, like 15 and a half, 15 and 3/4, something like that. And so I said, look, I'll go out and caddy for you and just walk around pulling a little pull cart. And the last 4 holes at the golf club that we played, Virginia Golf Club, were like back, out, back, and out. You know, you came back to the club.
Nice little loop.
And while she was in there having a cup of tea with her friends, I took her golf clubs, and my mum was 5'3" and 100-pound ringing wet, right? And so her clubs weren't necessarily right for me. The grips were too small, the clubs were too short and too flat, and blah, blah, all the wrong things. And I went out there and I enjoyed it.
Did it feel like you were special at any point, that you had a special talent during those early years?
No, I didn't. I felt very special. I brought 2 items to talk about because they relate so much to my life and the transition from being an amateur, where I could believe in myself, to being change in life and my attitude towards people. One was 1974. I won the Gary Player Junior Classic, and I won it convincingly. And in 74, right, that wasn't too many years after when I started playing. So let's just say 16 is an easy one. So in 71, I started playing golf. In 74, I won my first amateur 4-round tournament. But roll the clock forward from 74 to 86, right? I got beaten by Nicklaus in the Masters. But I got beaten in the Masters. That was a transformation for me to understand where I was in life, about what the power of finishing second and how you finish second, and how much that really affected me about the shot selection I made at that time.
Now, you won that in 74. 76, you won your first pro tournament. And that I think I'm right in thinking that got you entry into the Australian Open, is that right? And then you were paired up with Jack Nicklaus, is that how it worked?
The pairing was Jack Nicklaus was playing that week. So when I won the week before, everybody knew. And
was that your first pro win the week before?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That was my 3rd pro tournament I ever played in. I'm an individual who doesn't get nervous, but in that moment I was nervous, right? Because I had never prepared myself mentally for that moment. Because when you do sit down and you engross yourself into anybody's books, you never really get to meet the person who either wrote it or who is in that book. So you build them up from the information you gather from what you've read. And then I've obviously seen him play on TV, and you know, the accolades and the best golfer of all time, yada, 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 yada. So you really don't know what to expect. So I'm walking in this dark room, right, trying to figure my way out, what to do, how to do it. Am I going to embrace the situation? Is the situation going to swallow me up? It was a lot of stuff going on through my head, right? And lo and behold, a cold top my first tee shot, right? And I shoot 80 the first day. And
how far did that first tee shot go? Give amateur golfers around the world some
Well,
some
I hit a hedge probably 8 meters in front of the tee. It was an elevated tee, so I cold topped it and hit the hedge and then went through the hedge and probably went maybe 60 meters, something like that. But the interesting thing after the second round, because in the locker room, our names were lockers were alphabetical, and it was Nicklaus Norman, right? And by the time I came back, he just happened to be there. And we sat down on the bench side by side. And he put his hand on my knee and says, you know, I think you're good enough to play in America one day. And you know, it was just idle chit chat. And he said all the right things to instill confidence in myself, to keep trying to strive to improve. And that moment there, I knew he was a good person. It was a very, very fast rise to where I was. And you know, my first tournament, I won 7,000 Australian dollars, and going from $28 a week paycheck as an assistant pro to having $7,000 in a check, I made it, you know.
Bought yourself a sports car.
Richest guy in the world. That one stung the most because that was just a...
You wanted to hit a hard 5, is that right? And you took a soft 4.
Because all day long I'd been swinging not aggressively, but my swing was just fluid. And I debated myself at the time. I had 187 yards, and I was just a perfect full 5 iron. And I just tried to hit a fading 4 iron in the back right, because I faded the ball. I hit the ball left to right, for those people who don't know what a fade is. But I always moved the ball from left to right, from a tee shot to iron play. So I figured, I will try and make sure I get the ball back there, and I'll make sure that I get on the back tier of that 18th green. And because I was trying to back off my 4 iron, I slowed down my hip action because it's a little on the upslope. And I didn't fire my hips up the slope because gravity comes into play, and they were a little slow. The club got stuck behind me, and right started right, you know, and
from there your chance was gone. Just a few weeks later though, at the Open, how was that to win that? Because that was, as you said, and in your book you say that was the one that you really coveted, because that was the spiritual home of golf, if you like. To win the Open is the tournament to win above all
it
others.
is, because I thought the Open, when I looked at the Open Championship, it was, at the time, it was truly an open championship. Anybody could have gone within a certain handicap, could have gone and qualified for the Open. And I thought that was great. So not only that, I thought it was the sexiest trophy of all trophies in all sports. I always thought the Claret Jug looked the sexiest. You know, perfect scale, the history behind it. You know, it's not a massive thing where you need 3 people to pick it up. You can actually hug it and do all that stuff. So I thought it was a really cool trophy.
How did you win it?
I just played pretty good golf that week, to be honest with you.
The crowds loved you, the galleries loved you, and you know, you were different, and you had the straw wide-brimmed hat, and you were from Australia, and you were the shark. Were you aware of your brand image at that point?
I don't know whether I was aware of my brand image. I was very much aware of the connection I had with people. But I was always of the big believer of be who you are and never change who you are. Jack Nicklaus taught me that. Jack Nicklaus taught me to be a very humble winner, but be a great loser. Now, if you reach out and you broaden that out into every aspect of life, you're actually embracing everybody, because you need to instill those values. Just because we're good enough to hit a white golf ball from point A to point B, and people put us up on a pedestal, I still think that's crazy, but they do. So now you have to make sure that when you speak to them, you speak to them like it's a fireside chat. You speak to them like they can reach into that camera and they, oh, Greg, I know you. I know you. And that's a unique talent, because, and I was taught that talent. I was taught that talent by other great players.
Have you ever got over that completely?
Well, I never do, because people keep asking me the question. And look, it's part of history. It is what it is. I had no control over what Larry was going to do. I have control over what I do. That's why 86 stung me more than 87.
Because you were more in control of the 86
I was in control of the situation.
There's a wonderful moving bit in your book. This is of 1987 and the Larry Mize incident, because you talked about the crowd noise and it being like an earthquake almost. I would tell everybody that I could take it all and keep going, but I was only kidding myself. The truth is that I tried to bury it deep within myself, but the longer I held it in, the deeper it buried itself inside me. Mm-hmm. And the deeper something like that gets inside you, the more it harms you. And it's almost like you're saying here, that hurt me, and I'll always be scarred by it. It's quite a moving part of the book.
No, it is, and it's actually a very telling part of me too, because when I did say that, and it taught me never to bury things, never to hide anything within, because you try and throw something under the rug. If you pick up, like that just said, throw that under the rug, or another big piece of negative energy, throw that under the rug, that rug gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and sooner or later that's going to explode, right? So deal with it at the moment. And like now, I have a conversation about it. I talk about it all the time. And like it's kind of cathartic in a lot of ways, because it's out. Because the harboring of heaviness or harboring of feelings only burdens you. It doesn't burden anybody else.
Do you feel that you've been given the credit you deserve? 331 weeks as the top golfer in the world, second only to Tiger Woods, and miles ahead of anybody else. 2 major victories, second in all the other majors numerous times, 90-odd tour victories.
When you are under the microscope of life, people have an opinion. One thing that really does bug me, that people judge you on their opinion of you without knowing you, right? Judge me for all you want by sitting down and having a conversation with me, but don't ever judge me on not knowing me. But you know, it's a freedom of speech.
How would you rate the status of the game of golf at the moment?
Fantastic.
Really?
Fantastic.
I say that, and you'd have seen, I'm sure, the surveys, participation numbers dropping.
Forget participation. This is the one thing that I think we all have the wrong focus about. Participation is tied to the economy. When there's an economic downturn, and I've probably been through 6 of them, maybe 7 of them because of my time on this planet, you'll see when disposable income gets tight, golf suffers. When the economic boom is in place, golf rises. So participation is directly linked to the economy, I truly believe. I believe we actually focus on growing the game of golf in a couple of fashions: scalability and sustainability. If we do that correctly, then everything else will take care of itself.
What do you mean by those 2 points?
Scalable, okay? We want to be able to grow the game of golf in a scalable fashion. Let's just say the cost. The cost of building golf courses, the cost of maintaining golf courses. How do we scale that out to where we can still protect the game of golf and have it where it's a playing field for everybody to enjoy? That's scalable. Sustainability. Sustainability is building golf courses that gets handed on to generations without this burden of the annual dues.
The way to continue to grow golf, yes, sustainability, yes, scalability, but you've got to bring young people into it. And I just wonder where those young people surely are only going to come from one place. You know, the people who are economically able to do it.
Yes and no. You've got to bring the Gen Xers and you've got to bring millennials. Okay, you got the baby boomers over here, which are really the backbone of the game of golf, quite honestly. You have the baby boomers, and that will continue to spend in the game of golf. How do you bring the Gen Xers? How do you bring the millennials in? You've got to get out of this traditional box that golf is in, right? You have to open it up to these savvy social media, connected with my device, to 70,000 followers if they got a Twitter account, or to their best mates who live somewhere else in part of the world. You have to open that up. If a kid wants to get in a golf cart and put on loud music to go and play, let them do it.
No.
Absolutely.
Loud music on a golf course, the members will be
the members, the traditionalists, they're going to go, ooh, you can't do that. But you know what? If you want your club to survive, if you want you don't want to have the burden of maintaining the golf course out of your own pocket, you have to bring in the youth. Allowing that father with their son and their daughter, if their son wants to play with their earphones on and listen to music while they're going around, please have at it, right? If they want to come out and dress a little bit different, okay. Here's an analogy. Snow skiing to snowboarding. Go back in the 80s, there were a lot of ski resorts here in the United States that banned snowboarding. When one of them opened it up, it became more of a family destination because the daughter may have skied, the son wanted to snowboard. Now families flock to that place. Now look at everyone. I mean, there might be one or two where it might be just skiing only, but now snowboarding is an accepted sport. It's in the Olympics. You know, you're thinking, oh my gosh. But it wasn't that long ago that it was a banned sport on the slopes.
You almost seem to be more passionate and more involved in your post-golf career in terms of the designing the courses, your wine business. You seem to love that and have embraced that more and almost, I mean, this is just an impression I get. You're glad to have got the golf monkey off your back.
I truly believe I can give more back to the game of golf today than me hitting a white golf ball from Port A to Point B. Why? Because of my experiences, what I've learned, speaking to presidents of the United States who love the sport and what they think about it, right? Speaking to the prime ministers in my home country, speaking to CEOs, speaking to the people, the leaders of the world who really want to be a mover and a shaker in whatever direction they want to go. I've been very lucky. I've learned my lesson about judging people and being wrong. So I have never been afraid to ask a person a question. You know, golf has been a great platform for me because you play in a Pro-Am every Wednesday, basically. If you play 30 tournaments a year, you'll probably play in 25 Pro-Ams. In those 25 Pro-Ams, you play with 4 amateurs, so you're playing with 100 movers and shakers of the world. The higher you are and the more successful you are in the game of golf, the more high-profile players you play with in Pro-Ams, right? So you get to know them. And 4.5, 5 hours on a golf course in a Pro-Am, you get to know what the CEO may be thinking about. And the conversation just becomes open and free. And if you're stupid enough not to accept that, then you're stupid, right? Because to me, I want to somebody can talk to me for 2 hours and I'll listen. You learn more by listening than you do by speaking.
Let's talk about your hand. I know it was a while ago now, a few months. Is it okay?
It's going to be where it'll be for the rest of its life. Better than the alternative. It was very, very close. I was within a millimeter of severing the ulnar nerve and severing my artery. So I was very, very close. Lucky, you know. And you know, I'm a big believer in destiny in life anyway. And when you think about the sequence of how it happened and the experience I have had with chainsaws in the past, all good, you know, because I do use them a lot. Just how close it could have been to being something majorly bad where I could have had no use of my fingers or my hand. And I do have full strength back in here. I have full strength in my forearms and my fingers, a little bit of numbness here, which will always be there. When I first came back and started chipping, I really couldn't find the bottom of my swing because of the numbness right here in this part. But now I can feel it now.
No excuses then?
No excuses, no.
Have you got a death wish? Because I mean, I've obviously read your book, and you know, right from the very beginning, you know, you talk about getting caught and dumped down in the ocean when you went out to surf. Mm-hmm. You crashed your car and got out of that okay. You ran out of air when you were diving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You rescued a mate who was at the bottom of a pool.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And you've come out of it all,
well,
and you're still here. So what's got you into all these scrapes?
I know I don't have a death wish, number one. Number two is I enjoy understanding limitations. Going into a dark room where you don't know what's in that dark room, do you go in there with trepidation? Or do you go in there with fear? Or do you go in there with an exploratory mind trying to understand what's new in here? And how can I make that adjustment? And how can I apply that to my aspect of life? So I've always enjoyed understanding the unknown. And the unknown within myself. I mean, I've been cave diving, for example, and with friends and who said they were experienced cave divers, and when they get into a panic situation where arms are going everywhere and fins were going everywhere, and just, you know, because claustrophobia and you couldn't see a hand in front of, on top of your mask, it was that dark if you turned your lights out. How do you handle that situation? I mean, there was one example where, and I had somebody else with me who worked for me, who was a master diver, that you seize control of the moment by being calm. And if you don't remain calm, then not just one person could be affected, 3 people could get affected. So those situations to me are fascinating for my mind and fascinating for me. And so it's an interesting challenge to take yourself beyond.
And will you ever go back to Australia?
I would love to. I'd love to go back there to die, for sure. You know, I was born there, I'd like to die there. So there's nothing wrong with that. But when I reached 60, I actually probably surpassed a lot more than what I ever thought I would do, especially in the business world. I never expected to have 19 divisions of my company and seeing the future the way it is going forward. I'm very fortunate to be where I am today, but I'm very fortunate because I've been such a believer in myself and what I have and what I expect to deliver with the team of people I have around me is incredible. And I'll close on this. Why I have the ability to see into the future, I don't know. But I do push myself way out there. I give myself a 12-year game plan, but I also give myself a 200-year horizon. And when you think about doing a 200-year horizon, that's basically 10 generations. And if I can achieve that goal way past the daisies being grown on top of me and maybe some giant redwood tree that's 1,000 feet high, right? If I can achieve that, just think of all the happiness I can bring to the people who work for that company. That to me is the greatest thing you can do in business and in life, because you've given people a place of security.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it.
Okay, you got it. Thank you.